call this the 12th Sunday in Ordinary Time, but exactly what is ordinary time? We look back over this past week, and it was not ordinary time. A very positive thing happened this week. Pope Francis came out with his encyclical dealing with creation and our responsibility of taking care of this. Because this planet, this earth, was given to us by God. Go forth and multiply, he said. Not just bring children into the world, but take care of this planet that I've given you. And something horrible happened this week. 9 people come to a Bible study to reflect upon the Word of God. More than 9 people came, but 9 people were killed in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm sure you've all read about it. Tragedy. Good and bad. One day after the other. These people who died left many people behind. Family, friends, relatives. They're dealing with big tragedy. How are they going to handle this? Well, thank goodness the people there in Charleston are a very supportive community. And they're going to get through this because they have so many around them who are giving them support. In fact, many of them went to the court and spoke to the person who did the killing and said, "We forgive you. We forgive you." Can you imagine that? In this day and age? It tells you how deep their faith is. That they're not going to carry hatred around with them day after day after day. We also have squalls and hard times in each of our own lives. But how are we dealing with those? Well, many of us might be suffering from an addiction or some physical ailment. Or there could be something else going on in our lives. That's like a storm that we hear about in the gospel today. A great storm came about. How are we dealing with that? I'm sure a lot of us would normally go and blame God. Why are you allowing this to happen to me? I tried to do the best in my life, and look, here I am suffering. The question is, where's our faith? When we go through all this, what's happening within us? You can imagine what's happening to these people in Charleston. But what's happening when we have difficulties, when someone's died in our family? Not expecting that person to die so soon. Or there's sickness. How do we handle that? We call ourselves followers of Christ. But the question is, if we're truly followers of Christ, we wouldn't have fear in our lives. Fear is a big factor. I'm sure you all have had instances where fear has popped up many times. And we have to stop and think, I think, even go further than that. If we have fear, then we cannot have faith. You see, in today's gospel, what did Jesus do? He said, let's get into the boats. Let's go across the waters. Jesus wanted to take them from fear to faith. That's what he was doing. The storm comes up, and what happens? They get all excited. Oh, we're going underwater and all this other stuff. They wake him up, and all he does is say, be still, quiet. When stormy weather comes into our lives, each of us have to step back, find a quiet place, a very quiet place, and listen. Listen to the voice that created each and every one of us. Listen to the God who created us and what God is telling us. Not to tear God apart because, hey, you found out you had cancer. or you have this or that other thing. No. To deal with it. Listen to his encouraging words in our hearts. But we have to be still. This is what makes our faith strong, in order that we can go forth and help others out, despite our own things that are going on in each of our own lives, day after day. The world is far from being perfect. Tragedies are going to happen. Storms are going to happen in all of our lives. But if we know how to handle them, we're so much better off. Because it's grounded in our faith. We know that this God will help us through every single step. The God who walks with us day after day after day. Through the good times, through the bad times. That's the God who's with us. Trials, all disappointments, how do we handle those? Let us step back and really reflect and listen. Close our lips, close our eyes even, and listen. And let that voice speak to us. Don't fill the air with words, but just listen. Maybe that's a warning to me. Not to fill this air with more words, but for you to listen. Listen to that voice that's in you right now, that speaks to you right now, that's calling you forth out of fear into faith.